Right, there we go. Okay, good afternoon, my C++ students. Welcome to our lecture. Today we're going to we'll continue with our lecture on functions, and we'll talk a little bit about C++ classes, what's object-oriented programming, what's the class method, constructor. We'll talk about these concepts of encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism. Now you must remember, you guys are learning a programming language, and the paradigm that we are using is object-oriented programming. Now in object-oriented programming, let me go and just mute these people. Some people are talking in the back. They have their mics on. Let's see who's got their mics on. K. Gabela. All right, I'm going to just put his mic off because I can hear the background noise, and also it'll be recorded and it'll be in the recording, so we don't want that now, right? So let's just say mute all. Yay, right? Okay, so let's go and talk about this thing about functions. A function is basically a small block of code. It's part of the program, and it allows you to do maybe one or two outputs, right? Depends on you. Generally, we like to keep a function to run one output. Okay, you pass data, and when you're passing data in a function, it's known as parameters. You can get value parameters, or you can get reference parameters. So in our instance, we had my function and we had a void function. We said a void function does not return a value, whereas a return function, we actually got an answer coming out of there. So if I look at last week's work, I go to my projects and I look at last week's work, I had a return function. Let's look at the return function. Where's the return function and the multiple parameters? Yeah, there we go, there we go. There's my multiple parameters and my functions. Let me go and find, where's my return function? Did I have a return function? Did I do that with you here last week? Function parameters. Let's go next. I must have done a return function. Let's go next. Let's go next. There's the return function, right? So in a return function, it gives you back a value. All right, let's run this program. So there's the answer. We said it's 8. So if I go and change this to maybe, instead of say 5, I'm going to say 100. So now it's going to return to me, run the program. It's going to say compiling 103. So that's my return function. All right, so let's go back to C++. Pass by value and pass by reference. Here's an example of a swapping function that takes place, that happens, where I swap my values around. So let's try it out. Let's see. I'm going to copy this into my online compiler. Here's my online compiler. Create a new project. And right, so there's my online compiler. There's my function. Line number 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 is a function. This is very common in programming, where we swap two values around. All right, let's go and run. Let's beautify. Let's see how it looks now. And you beautify it. Hey, that looks pretty. Let's run our program and see what happens. So run the program. Compiling. Oh, it says choose a language. The language I got to choose is C++. Compiling. Okay, so before the swap, it gave you the values of 10 and 20. After the swap, it says 2010. All right, so let's go and put some spaces in between there. So now it looks rather congested, huh? Don't you think? Let's put some spaces there. Let's put some spaces there. Run the program again. Compiling, 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 compiling. Yay! Before the swap, it was 10 and 20. After the swap, it changed the values around to 20 and 10. Okie dukes, okie dukes. All right, I think I should put this in. I'll explain every line for you. Line by line, I'll go through it and I'll tell you what it is, right? All right, let's put this into our WhatsApp group. Right, so there we go. I'm putting into the WhatsApp group. Right, let's look at what each line says. Line numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 would be ignored. Those are comment statements. All right, we're not interested in that. Line number 6 include stdio.h. This is the class library, standard input-output library, input-output stream using namespace. Line number 10 says that this is a function, a void function. It's not returning, it's not giving me anything inside the function. The name of the function is swap nums, N-U-M-S. Int, oh, there's the epsilon sign, right? That and symbol. That means it's a reference parameter. X is a reference parameter. That means I'm referring to a parameter that occurs in the main program. And where I'm calling it up is in line number 27. If I look at line number 27, it says swap nums, first num, second num. When I look at first num, and I look at line number 11, value of x with that epsilon sign in front of it. That means that whatever happens in line number 27, it corresponds to whatever happens in line number 11. So the value like 10, which is first num, is transferred to line number 11. X takes on the value of 10. And whatever happens inside of line numbers, basically 12, 13, 14, 15, that change that occurs, actually a swap will take place, will be transferred to line number 27. So if you look at the output of 10 and 20, 10 goes from line number 27 to line number 11. It goes and it gets swapped around. And then it takes on the value of 20, which gets transferred back to line number 27. All right. Are you cool with that? Any questions? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Do I hear a question? Do I hear a question from anyone? Nobody with a question. So this is how I swap numbers along. Let me go and save this. So there we go. It says, save. Click on the save button. And I'm going to call this swapping to values. Right, so save my project. Now, the reason I'm doing it like this is I want you to work just like that. So there's this talk about a reference parameter. There's a reference parameter. In order to swap two values around, you got to first store the value in a temporary variable called z. Line number 13, which is z, this is a local variable. It's only accessible within the confines of the function swap nums. Do I have a question? I can hear someone put their mic on there. Is there a question for me? Anyone with a question? I can see someone wrote it in the chat there. No, no questions, sir. Okay. All right, that's fine. No questions. So let's go on. This program starts from line number 18 int main man. Line number 20, I got int first num, which is give me a variable called first num, give me some space in the memory, and I want you to allocate the number 10 to that. Line number 22, I'm declaring another variable called second num, and I'm assigning the value 20 to that. Line number 24, C out. Before swap, \n, put it on a new line. 25, C out, the first number, leave a little space, second number on a new line. Give me a new line. Line number 27 is a function call. I'm swapping two numbers. I'm calling the function swap nums. I'm passing across the parameter first num, which has the value of 10 in it. I'm passing across 20, which is from second num, the variable second num. There's a one-to-one correspondence between the two. All right, so from first num, which has the value of 10, it is assigned to x. And because of this epsilon sign in front of it, and symbol, all right, whatever changes happens is passed across to the first num. So inside the function swap nums, I have a local variable z, which takes on the value of x, which is 10. So over here, z is equal to 10. Over here, x is equal to the value of y. Now the value of y comes from here, which is second num, which is 20. So x takes on the value of 20. Now y takes on the value of z, which is 10. So if you'll notice, this is the swap that takes place. There's a nice question out here. We need to have the value of, in my case, 10, stored in a temporary variable called z. Otherwise, if I don't have that, then I will lose it. Because when x is equal to 20, if I forget to have line number 13, it will lose that value. I won't have that value. It will be overwritten. Are you cool? You listening? You hearing? Yeah, are you with me? Yay. All right. So I can do that. That's a comment statement there. So let me go and put that in our chat. I forgot. Maybe I should put also do a little photo of it, right? All right, there we go. Let's make a little. All right, there we go. Right, I posted in our WhatsApp group. Right, so that's passed by reference. So you can try this out for yourself. You can go and read up on it. And guess what? The nice thing about this is that you can play around by changing the values of first num and second num. And you also have your online compiler to try it out as well. Okay, so let's go next. Function overloading. multiple functions have the same name with different parameters. Oh, look at this, look at this, look at this. Look at the overloading of a function. This does look overloaded. Yay! I got plus function int and I got plus function double. I am overloading this function. I am overloading it. Let's go and overload it. Right, this is an overloaded function. Here's an overloaded function. Let's run the program. Yo, look at this overloaded function. There we go. I'm calling the function plus double function and our plus double plus function int. Yay, right? Let's see what's going on in this program. By the way, I don't need to have Studio H. Let me try running it now because I've got IOStream in there. Yeah, I can take out Studio H because IOStream covers that. But I need to have IOStream. So let's go and right. So here, this is overload, overloading functions. Right. So let's look what happens here. In line number 25, I have a function call. I'm passing across two parameters. My num1 takes on the value which is plus func returns x plus y, which is 8 plus 5, which is 13. So 13 gets stored inside my num1, and that gets printed in line number 27. In line number 26, plus function double. I'm passing across two parameters, 4.3 and 6.26, and I'm returning x plus y. Right? My num2 takes on that. So what was so special about function doubling? Multiple functions can have the same name with different parameters. Right? My function. Right? Go ahead and try it out for yourself there. Right? Plus function int plus function double. All righty, let's go on. So you can try this out. Click on the next button. It comes to object-oriented programming. This is where I'm going to start off, and we'll continue with our object-oriented programming. And when we finish this section, when I finish this section on classes, methods, constructors, inheritance, polymorphism, files, and exceptions, then I'm going to give you a test, okay? Right. So let's go and close that. Close that. So what is object-oriented programming? OOP. OOP stands for object-oriented programming. This is, well, let's talk about the other type of programming that we have, which is procedural programming. Procedures is where we have functions or procedures, like what has happened earlier on. We wrote functions. This will tie in very easily into the concept of a procedural programming paradigm, right? But in object-oriented programming, we are able to provide a little more structure for the program. We are able to code a little more easier and modify it and debug our programming code. We have what is known as classes and objects. So let's talk in general now. If I have a class called fruit, my objects would be specific examples of fruit. For example, apple, banana, mango. If I have a class called cars, my specific types of cars or objects are, hey, Volvo, I drive a Volvo, Audi, Toyota. A class is a template for an object. An object is an instance of a class. Classes, all classes have attributes. For example, I just mentioned to you a class which is cars. And if I go and create a class for cars, all cars will have 4 wheels, they'll have an engine, they'll have a steering wheel. Now that's an attribute, that's a characteristic of a car. So in our case now, let's take an object called my object in programming. And I'm creating an object of the class, right? Let's go and put it out. Let's run the program. So here we go. We start with the main program. We are creating an object of my class. Remember I told you we have fruit as the class and we have objects inside there, which is banana, apple, orange. So my class and the object of my class is called my obj. If I want to access an object of my class, I will need to access the attribute and set its value. For instance, I will say my object, that's the object of my class, and the attribute of that inside of it, it has the value of 15. So my num, which is defined in the top out here, the class definition. So think of this class definition has an integer in it and it has a string inside of it. So all objects that belong to my class will have an integer and a string. But a particular example of the object inside my class will have 15 and some text written on there. Okay, so let's go and play around with this. So let's copy this. Copy it, copy it, copy it. Control C is to copy it. Open up my compiler. So there's my class here. Let's beautify this a little. Right, so let's look at this now. Here's a definition of my class. We're calling it a public class. We'll talk about this, what's a public and private class. And inside there are 2 attributes. It has my num and it has my string. My num will take on integer values. My string will take on string values. Let's start from the main program, the main method. Oh, I'll talk about methods just now, what that means, right? We'll talk about methods. So here I have an object of my class, my object, and I'm accessing the attribute and I'm setting it to 15. So my object, my num, can you see it makes life a little bit easier? All this is in the background. I'm only calling up my class and I'm accessing it and I'm running it. So my object dot my string has some text in there. Let's put down my name is right. So there we go. And in line number 27, I simply want to display my object.myNum, and I want to display my object.myString. Run the program. Compiling. There we go. So it displayed the value C out my object.myNum, which looks at my object.myNum, which is 15. And I was able to access that because I have created a class called myClass.myObject, and it displayed for me 15. In line number 30, my object.myString. There it is in line number 24, I displayed it. If I go back to the talk about classes and objects, can you see how easy it makes life in terms of object-oriented programming? See, they said it's faster, easier, you don't repeat yourself, it's clear structure of programming, you are able to reuse the code and the application, and you have less code. Now, less code is important because if we use less code, then less memory is used. Less memory is used. It helps because now I'm able to create an application, an app, and I can store the value on my smartphone, and it's easier for uploading and downloading from the server. Isn't that cool? Hello, are you here? Come on, where are you? Where's everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yay, isn't that cool? What do you think about that? Huh? Yay, right? Guess what? I've got 23 people in the class now. Isn't that cool? All because I said that I'm going to have more. I'm going to give you marks for attending the lesson. All right. Now, what you should do is you should try playing around with this. You need to go and create your own class. So instead of my class, you can put down class 1 or class 2 or something like that. So let me go and try and create a class, class 2, right? Control C. I'm going to create another one, Control V, and I'm going to call this my class 2, right? My class 2. And I'm going to say, oops, I got a call, and I say, what? So there we go. I'm going to say my class 2, and this time I'm going to say int my num2, int my string. I'm going to call this my string 2. So if I wanted to have another string, all I'm going to do is saying out here is my class 2, which is coming from my object. So I want you all to try that out. It's all, I didn't realize the time. It's 2 minutes to 2. I want you to go and try that out for you, where I basically I want you to create your own class and your own object. All right, and I want you to put your name in there. Is that okay? Try that out for me, please. And we will continue with classes and objects. And just to remind you that our semester ends in January. All right. We can create a class and an object. Ah, there we go. How you create a class. There's a class there. And multiple objects. How do we create multiple objects? And how do we create attributes of the class? So if I talk about cars, BMW X5, create another object of car, print the car, and so forth, right? We'll talk about a method. What's a class method? We'll talk about a constructor. I'll talk about encapsulation, inheritance. Okay, so we'll end at this point. Do you have any questions for me? Anybody with a question? Let me take the register, and I promise you I'll give you marks Yes, I heard someone with a question out there. Can I stop the recording? I'm going to stop the recording. Let's stop the recording.